Helen. Thank you very much for having us here.
Pleasure to be.
It's lovely. Nice to see you.
Delighted to show you what I've got down here.
Helen Richards lives in the Yarra Valley, about an hour northeast of Melbourne. Helen, what drew you to orchids?
Jane, I was born with it. When I was born in Ringwood and grew up in Ringwood as well, and opposite our place there was this magnificent bush. And I would spend my childhood playing down in that bush and for some unknown reason looking for the orchids. They always attracted me.
Helen just loves Australian native orchids and has written books about them. She's won dozens of awards for cultivating and conserving them and is the chair of the Australian Orchid Foundation. Oh, this is a great growing area, Helen.
Now, Jane, it's not very glamorous, but it's certainly functional.
And how does it work?
To grow the terrestrial orchids, you want to protect them from wind, as they are out in the bush with leaves and grass around them, of course. So hence we've got the shade cloth walls. But you must be able to have very good air movement. So I've got the shade-loving plants at this end, and then medium light in the middle, and then the sun lovers at the far end.
So, Helen, this is the shady area. So what sort of orchids have we got here?
Now, here we've got the Corybus area, the Corybus group, which grow in shady conditions in the wild and, of course, in leafy areas, but they also grow in humid conditions. So that's why I put the plastic bag around the pot, which helps just create a little bit more humidity, and they respond very well to that.
Are these called the helmet orchids?
These are helmet orchids. They don't look like little helmets.
Little tiny helmets.
Look like little gum nuts from up above.
So this one's now moving into a little bit
more light. Now, Jane, these are really intriguing. Have a look at the flowers closely. Now, look at the labellum. You see that's a lady insect on that. That's a lady wasp. Well, that's what the male wasp thinks. So the male wasp comes up and he climbs up the stem and he grabs hold of his girlfriend, tries to fly off, instead of which he ends up getting knocked against the column and he pollinates the flower. They're all different shapes because they attract different pollinators, and they're all boy wasps that get totally fooled.
Isn't that amazing?
It really is.
So the sex life of orchids is really quite interesting.
It is absolutely fascinating.
Helen, let's take a look at those that like the sun.
Well, Jane, here we have one of the beautiful spider orchids, which the spider orchids are everybody's favourite.
It just looks like a spider.
They do, don't they? Some magnificent shapes.
And there's another one down here, I
Now, here we're in another totally different genus. We're in the Diurus, the donkey orchids. Now, they, again, are sun lovers, if you want them to flower. And this is one of the Victorian ones now, just coming out.
It has like little ears that do look like a donkey's
You can understand why it's called the donkey orchid, can't you?
That's right.
This one is totally different. These come from the drier areas, this group of greenhoods. And so that's why I've got them in a really sandy mix. But what's fascinating about them is their moisture. When you get dew in the dry areas, it just runs down the flower stem and into the tuber and keeps it moist.
So the role of all these orchid flowers is just to attract insects.
My word it is, because it's the insects that pollinate the flowers that propagate the flowers. So here in this instance, the insect comes in and the labellum trips it, pushes the insect around the back here, and he gets caught and he has to come out the top, and in the process he pollinates the flower.
Oh, isn't that amazing?
It is amazing.
Yeah. Wow. Huh.
Intricate
little things.
Let me show you. Here I've picked one of my flowers. So when I'm pollinating, when I'm playing the pollinator, I have to take the front off so that I can get in. And you can see what's inside. Then I take the labellum out because it's flipped across.
Yep.
Now here's the insect and he's got stuck in there. He has to come up through the top and he goes off with the pollen. Gets stuck in there, goes up through there, picks up the pollen. Then he comes to the next flower and he lands on there.
Show me that little bit of pollen.
And puts it on the stigma.
If people want to grow native orchids, where do they get them from?
Jane, the one thing they don't do is collect them from the wild. They're fully protected in the wild. There's a great source of native orchids available through the Native Orchid Society. We have been rescuing plants from the wild for the last 40 years and the tubers have been grown on. And also, of course, we've had the privilege of growing on plants that have been collected for scientific purposes under with full permits. So there's a great source of tubers there if you wish to be involved in growing them.
As her astonishing collection continues to grow, Helen is keen to share her love and, of course, extensive knowledge of Australian native orchids.
Jane, native orchids are so beautiful. The variation, the way they've adapted themselves for pollination, the intriguing shapes. When you start looking at them, they are just magnificent.